With the Iran war now set to enter its fourth week, President Trump was pressed whether he plans to send U.S. ground troops to Iran.
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops.
It comes even as the U.S. is accelerating that deployment of thousands of Marines to the region. The president who first said the war would be over soon a week and a half ago.
It's going to be ended soon.
Repeating that line Thursday.
It's going to be over with pretty soon.
But the president also confirmed his administration is asking Congress for another $200 billion for the war.
It's a small price to pay to make sure that we stay tippy-top.
A necessary investment, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
It takes money to kill bad guys.
Hegseth has also said when he met privately with the families of the 6 service members killed in the Iran war last week, they all urged him to finish the job.
They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done.
But the father of fallen Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons recalls the exchange differently, telling NBC News, "I didn't say anything along those lines." The cost of the war also taking a toll on Americans' wallets, with the average gallon of gas up more than 90 cents in the last month. The president trying to reassure Americans the increase will be short-lived.
Oil prices will go up, the economy will go down a little bit. I thought it would be worse. Much worse.
The president also raising eyebrows alongside Japan's prime minister when asked by a Japanese journalist why he did not warn allies before striking Iran.
And we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay?
The prime minister did not respond, but appeared taken aback by the comment. But later, the two friendly at a White House dinner as the president wrapped up his visit with America's ally. And back to that family that we spoke with, Charles Simmons described to NBC News how his son, Tyler, had just a magnetic personality, saying he told Secretary Hegseth he understands the, quote, peril that goes into making decisions like this, and I just certainly hope the decisions being made are necessary. Those were his words. The Pentagon says the details of Hegseth's conversations remain private, Craig, adding the secretary has the utmost respect for our Gold Star families.
Our Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander for us there. Peter, thank you. Let us bring in Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press. Kristen, good morning to you. As Peter noted there, we are now in the fourth week of this war. Gas prices, $3.91 on average. That's up nearly $1 over last month. We've seen the polling. We know it's unpopular with the American public. What's motivating President Trump to continue with this war in Iran?
Well, look, Craig, first, in terms of the political impact, this has been a week of frayed alliances with growing tensions with NATO after President Trump's demands that they help the U.S. reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And there are questions about whether the U.S. is on the same page as Israel after they struck an oil field in Iran. President Trump said he told Prime Minister Netanyahu not to do it again. And notably, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard testifying to Congress that broadly the U.S. and Israel do have different goals. Now, in talking to some of the president's Republican allies, there is concern that the war is escalating and that there's no clear path for a resolution in Iran. In terms of what's motivating the president, clearly he's eyeing his legacy, but there are concerns about what the impact could be for Republicans in the midterms, Craig, particularly if more American lives are lost and if gas prices don't come down soon.
Let's pivot here and talk about the nation's airports right now. We started the broadcast with those long lines at Hartsfield Jackson down in Atlanta. There have been long lines at airports all over the country for the last week or two. What's the latest on the talks to end this partial government shutdown and get those TSA workers paid as well?
Yeah, it's a great question, Craig. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are starting to feel the pressure to reopen the government, given those long lines at airports and TSA officials missing paychecks. On Thursday, for the first time in a long time, both sides did hold talks. At issue, Democrats are demanding major changes to immigration enforcement. Now, look, the White House and Republicans are offering a series of proposals in response, including, and I'll just tick through some of them, expanding the use of body-worn cameras, limiting civil immigration enforcement at sensitive locations, and adhering to the law of not deporting any U.S. citizens. It's not clear, though, Craig, that this is going to be enough to get Democrats on board because it doesn't address all of their concerns. And one key question I'll be watching for in the coming days and the coming weeks, just how involved will President Trump be in bringing this shutdown to an end, Craig?
All right. Kristen Welker for us. Kristen, thank you. And, of course, Kristen will have the very latest on the war, as well as a closer look at the crisis in Cuba, an exclusive interview with that country's deputy foreign minister. If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.